You know, it always aggravates me whenever something is a 4th of July celebration. Why don't you say Independence Day? I mean, we don't celebrate February 14th. We go Valentine's Day. So it's
Is Scott gonna be here today?
We'll call this meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the City of Callaway Board of Commissioners. It is Tuesday, June 24th, 2025 at 6 p.m. If you will stand with me, Commissioner Pelletier will do the invocation. Commissioner Briggs, you can lead us in the pledge.
Lord, we thank you for allowing us together today, and we pray for your guidance in making decisions for our city and citizens. We thank you for our first responders and ask you bless them and keep their families. Please keep them safe and let them go home at the end of their shift. We thank you for our citizens and employees that make Callaway a great place to be. And we pray you bless them with peace and success. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Clerk, please do a roll call.
Commissioner Griggs?
Here.
Commissioner Pelletier?
Here.
Commissioner Ayers?
Here.
Mayor Henderson?
Here.
And Commissioner Davis is present by phone.
Okay, do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda? Okay, in case there's anybody that does not know the public participation rules, you can speak on each agenda item as we discuss it. All you need to do when I call for public participation, raise your hand. Once you're recognized, come to the podium. You can state your name and address if you choose to, and then your 3 minutes begins. Like I said, you can speak on each one of those items. At the end of the meeting, we have public participation for non-agenda items. Same process, just once you're recognized, state your name and address if you choose. Then you have your 3 minutes to comment on non-agenda items. So we will go on to approval of the minutes. We have the minutes of the June 10th, 2025 regular meeting. Did anybody have any comments, changes to those minutes?
I did, at the top in the attendance, Eddie's name was not on there in attendance, so that did get added and corrected.
Did anybody have anything else? Or if not, I entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. There are no other comments. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, and the financial statements are attached there for your review. So if you have any questions on those, I'm sure, yes, sir.
I have a question I'd like to bring up here, because, it concerns the collection of bad debts. The collection of bad debts are stated in our enterprise funds, so water, sewer, and solid waste. So that would relate to be the utility accounts, is that correct?
Correct.
And so far, actually, it's only been about $200 to $300 or so that's been, I guess, collected on that, between the three accounts. But every month, we get a report, and this last report was that we had $1,700 going to collections. Are we getting any results from sending these out to collection?
They're the financials are collected. David, do you have anything you can add to that?
Just they pay when they, if they wanna come back to the city, they pay. It all depends, but yes, you do get some money back in collections. A lot of times, it's not the stuff that's going current, it's prior stuff that's hanging out there.
But under the collections of bad debts, is that what we're receiving so far this year?
Yes.
Now, I'll bring this up because, each month we've been having, I'll just throw out a figure, it's been over $1,000 going to collections. And so far this year, we've only collected approximately $300. So that means that, very honestly, we're not getting any of our bad debts back.
But, I mean, not the only incentive you have is if they wanna come back to the city and they have a collections account, you have to pay it. Other than that, it's gonna be collections just like any bad debt would be.
Okay. Now, I'm gonna go back about 10 or 12 years. When we, realized that we were having this particular situation, but it was in the, 40s and 50,000s. So what the city did, the commission at that time did, was went from basically round numbers, so $85, $100 deposit, went to $250 deposit. So we've been on that since that time, and that's what we're in now. But even with the $250 deposit, we're still having to basically write off 20 to 30,000. I'm just extrapolating.
So we can give a report of comments for the whole entire year, if y'all like to see that.
I already looked at the financials, the end of the year financials, as to what we're doing. It's always been an issue. It's always gonna be an issue. And we're never gonna get a lot of money back because, these people are renters. And 99.9% of them are renters. They get up and go. If it was property owners, it'd be a different situation. But these are renters.
Well, that's because I've asked that question, we've had a few, because I look at them and they'll have a homestead exemption, which should mean it's property owners, but I don't think we do anything, even if it's a property owner, we don't do anything different.
I don't know that we can. It's a Kevin question, but, I mean, we,
Can't you do a lien?
I would.
Yeah, we've done that one before. We've had some big ones we've done, it's rare, we've done a utility account. Normally, when it's Once renters in there, you can't hold the new one liable for the old one.
And if somebody's got a homestead exemption, that should be a
Yeah, we
property
would turn
owner
this
that.
down.
Smaller.
Correct.
If it's homestead, it's a homestead, their personal
I
account.
think what it comes down to is they're probably not homesteading it anymore.
Right.
Renting it, and they're not reporting it.
Well,
Yeah.
But then shouldn't we report it and make you get in trouble that way? They can't get their renters to pay their bills.
Well, the state is not allowing us to go out there, and this, I agree that it's renters. The state's not allowing us to go after the property owner, which we could if it was a property owner that was, actually in default. What I'm wondering is, and the reason I'm bringing this up, is we got budget coming up. And we also can make some changes, and some of this is a Kevin question. When it comes to renters, and this is what we've been facing, can we go up on the deposit for the renters, or does it have to be everybody?
Yeah, you can't really discriminate, and that's like the
Okay.
housing,
All right,
housing
now-
association.
Now, the people that, we have in there that after 3 years, we actually return the deposit to the people who've been paying.
Good
Not the,
payers, yeah.
not the full amount, but we do return.
Right.
I think we return, is it $100, David?
150.
150,
We keep
yeah,
100,
keep 100.
we keep 100.
But a lot of times what you're also seeing in these reports from these renters, when you see large ones, 9 times out of 10, what you're seeing is there's a leak, their landlord don't fix it. And they end up just moving out because they can't afford their water bill because they get shut off. And then they're stuck in the catch-22. And that happens quite a bit. And, you know, I've tried to add notations on some of the larger ones and
Right.
starting, you know, so y'all understand some of the back history, or at least to let y'all know we follow the process to a T, but, you know, I wanna brag on our utility billing department because it was $50,000 and $60,000.
Right.
And, you know, they're doing a tremendous job in trying to stay on top, do shut-offs, get everything done. We used to have hundreds and hundreds of shut-offs, I remember this.
1,000.
Yeah. And
For
now,
you is over
yeah,
1,000.
and our shut-offs now are less than 200.
Right. For you.
We shoot for 100 or
Yeah.
less.
Before, I think, Mayor and I got on commission, they weren't turning anything off. There was no turn-offs at all.
Well, when we have the
That's
shut,
next.
when we have the shut-offs, we're actually showing that on the, basically in here on the penalties. And we actually budget, unfortunately,
Yeah.
we have such a record on that we actually budget that as almost an income. Well, it is an income under the penalties. So, but what I'm wondering is, all right, we can't separate it out, renters and property owners, but we can go up on the deposit
You can always do that.
Across the board.
across the board. And here again, for the people that, pardon?
It's already high.
It is. I think the problem, Commissioner, is not, we're gonna raise deposits for everyone, which includes our property owners. And our problem is not the property owners, our problem is the renters. Yeah, and I think the biggest problem, which I was hoping we get to, is that if we reduce our billing cycle,
Well,
we would
that's
catch
part
a
of
lot of that ahead of time. You know. And right now, we're running 60 days, and we're not even, I didn't see contract come through, so we're not close to even implementing that, but let's say, hopefully by the end of this year, hopefully, we can work on changing the billing cycle, which would help a little bit. But these renters are gonna walk out, they walk out, period. And you can send it to collection all you want. I did the same thing, when I ran Ocean Towers. I had, 100, 150 every year that didn't pay. The only way I can get back to them is put a lien on the unit, and half of them didn't care. We ended up foreclosing on the unit. Because they walked away, they're not gonna pay their fees. They didn't pay if we had a local agreement with our sister cities that we could share data, that would help. In other words, a lot of these people go to Parker, Springfield, Lynn Haven, or Panama City, utilities to where they can't connect in Panama City unless they pay what is due in Callaway. I don't know.
And vice versa.
I don't know the legality behind that, but if you kind of look at that, that would kind of help. We've never looked at that before, but it should be looked at. Well, we help the other cities too, but not only help Callaway, but help other cities too, because they jump from city to city to city, you know.
We could go up on future deposits, at least it's for the future deposits.
Yeah.
And the current deposits stay what they are until
Yeah, I don't,
that changes.
I don't know if I'd wanna go up.
Well, you basically take the number that's on that list, and whatever you went up on your deposit, that's how much you say. That's really it.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go
Now,
back
this
and
is
talk a little bit.
just, it's just 1 month now.
That's right.
Well, that's a
Trust
low
me,
one.
That's a low one. Yeah. We're gonna do it really good. And I do wanna talk a little bit about, shortening that billing cycle. We've been discussing how to shorten the billing cycle. Can it be done? How much can it be done? And you're looking at a 30-day period where you read, then you send the bills off on the 26th, because the bills will be sent off on the 26th or the 27th. Because we do a final bill after the shut-off date. So after that shut-off date, that's whenever we send the bills out. It's just the way it has to be done. Those get processed and they get sent out around the 1st. Everyone gets it, your bill is due by the 15th, and then you have shut-off on the 25th. The portion that you shorten in this whole cycle is when you read the meter to the 25th.
Well, and
So
that's,
if we could shorten it, if we could shorten this thing down 10 or 15 days, you run a procedure. We can shorten, we can decrease the consumption, I'm gonna estimate by 20%. And that 20% would then come off their final bills, because we shorten the time. That's what, there's a mentality behind it.
to me, that's where our problem is that we're our own worst enemy, is because we're allowing, it's due on this date, oh, well, you can have the 10 days before we do anything to you. If it's due on that date, it's due on that date, and in my mind, that's when it should be done, period. Which you're gonna have a lot of repercussion, but that would eliminate some of our issues. And that's gonna help, we spent all this money on our system, and you're trying to tell me now, and what I'm getting from you, that we're not gonna be able to do anything on, the billing cycle. We need to figure out how we're gonna fix that billing cycle. If that means that we eliminate that 10 days from the 15th to the 25th, I'm all for that.
Just cut off on the 15th.
Just cut it off on the 15th and be done with it. I'm for that. I don't know about the rest of the commission, but somehow or another, we need to fix it.
And that's another option, because then everything does shift.
Right, that's what
You
I'm,
got 10 days, there, we shortened the billing cycle, now we're shortening it 25 days.
and then,
I don't know, Kevin, they get their bills, and about
Ours
15,
that
no
way.
grace period.
They can cut some off like that.
yeah, I know they do. Yeah,
Quickly.
we're just being very generous. We've always been generous with that extra 10 days. And the issue at the end of the day, yes, we're lower than what we were years ago, but I don't know, I'd have to go look at the end of year financials, but, the issue is that we're on this 60-day cycle. We need to get off of that 60-day cycle to catch some of these leaks, and some of these other issues. And to me, if it's still in the 15th, still in the 15th period in the subject.
The leaks are caught early. So once we get a read, the first thing we do is what's called a proof. And that proof is every account is looked at to see about high usage or usage on a vacant account. All of that prints out, and then that's where they go through, and that's where we determine, there's something wrong with this account. The tech will go over, double check the read, and then if it's showing that it's high usage, boom, they get a sticker. You have potential leak. And that gets posted. So, that happens within the first 10 days. And we look at a 30-day cycle. So it's not like we read on the first every time. Sometimes we read on the 5th.
Right.
This shorter months, they shift. Longer months, we shift it a little bit so that there's a 30-day cycle in there. But the proofs go out, and then, the residents are notified that you potentially have a leak. Now, whether they do anything about it, that's where, it comes in that the following month, oh, I got a high bill. You told you had a leak.
It's a renter and.
What do you want? You know?
We've had a lot of $1,500, $1,600 and $1,700. Matter of fact, we had, you ever solved that $14,000 one that we had?
I believe it's.
That was about a year or so ago. But at the end of the day, all the citizens in the city are paying for that, period.
Yep.
And if we get a little bit more efficient, maybe we can look at doing something with our water rates. But that's gonna be very difficult to do.
I would tell you, there is not a city out there that does not have bad debt on water.
Well, I understand that.
That's just always going to be.
Well, when we had, prior to the hurricane, we were looking at 30 to 40% renters.
Mhm.
After the hurricane, what we have now is closer to 60%.
Right. And it's getting higher and higher with this new property coming up, a lot of people are buying them with the purpose of renting. So
I agree with you, but at the same time, our bad debt has went down.
Oh, yeah, no.
Bad debt has went down, even though we do have a higher percentage of renters, our bad debt has went down.
I think you
And
need
that's
to go.
just, we
I'm
talk
not
about it
going
till we're
on
going
the
ahead, but it's
discussion.
never ever gonna
No,
go
that's
away.
fine. I think you need to go back to your staff and start discussing the cutoff on the 15th, be done with it, period.
That's gonna be, we'll start the discussion.
I mean,
I'm sure
and then
we'll.
bring it back to
We'll
commission.
start it, we'll bring it back.
I know two of us here are willing to do that. I don't know about Commissioner,
Save us some money.
yeah,
It
I'm
will.
not opposed to that.
I mean, I didn't even
I'll
guess
be
it all.
pulling people from every department, run out and shut off. We'll have a bunch to start off with, but they'll learn.
Again, you know, if you
Yeah.
start.
They will learn, I mean, it will, but it's gonna be a.
I'm hoping the meters that you're buying now are the meters that we can work on closing remote. I know it's more money, but sometimes.
A lot more money, it's double.
I understand it's more money, but
Yeah, we can do it. I think that comes down to.
it makes no sense, city manager, that we're doing all this work on the towers and we're not going all the way through with it. You know, we're a little bit pregnant, is what I'm looking at. Pardon my French, but you know what I'm saying is that we're spending all this time and effort on the towers, on Reed. We're not gonna eliminate readers, and we're not gonna do early billing, so why did we spend all this money on this? When drive-by was just almost the same. So in my mind, you know, you keep on, I know there's double the month, but you know, that's why you got a budget, you know.
But we are planning on, buying these meters.
And I imagine you have money for it in that particular fund to be able to do that.
We
can
can
reserve.
definitely, if y'all wanna switch over and buy nothing but these meters, we can start doing it.
I think we need to have a discussion. Yeah, because it's stupid that, you know, we're having to go to each home when we can do it remotely.
Yeah.
I think
We probably have to go up on our connection rates to cover the cost of
Well,
the meter.
You do. That's not a cost that these people are paying, it's the cost that's gonna be paid on new construction.
I don't think, I'm gonna give you an example, I don't think Florida Power and Light. Of course, they take a reading basically at the first of the month, and by the
Yeah, they do
fifth
everything remote.
of the month, we get a statement.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think Florida Power and Light has totally accurate readings across their system. So I don't think they're waiting on billing me
No,
because somebody's got a bad read somewhere.
no, I'm.
And same thing with Callaway and our water. We've got, good reads. Send the bills out for that. You got a bad read, handle that individually.
I don't think you can split up the contract, you gotta sit it all at one time. It's not that simple. If we did our own printing, which we have the capability of doing, and I know we've had that capability, but you'd have to hire people to do that. And, so it's not that simple.
Well, just keeping the subject out there.
Yeah.
I bet it.
Okay. Okay, we'll go on to the regular agenda now. Item number 1, resolution number 25-10, code enforcement, lien for nuisance abatement, city attorney.
resolution of the City of Callaway, Florida, approving amounts to be liened on certain property within the city, to wit, 306 South Gay Avenue, for costs incurred in the abatement of nuisances upon such property, authorizing the appropriate officers of the city to record the lien and notify interested parties of such lien, and providing an immediately effective date. Pay a lien for 239.16.
Anybody have any question or comment?
This is a tax lien.
I do have a question. It says the state, is this thing, what's the deal? Is the family still in jail, or do we know what the status of the house is, or are we gonna be leaning it every other month for landscaping?
I'm not sure what we did on the lien. I'm not sure what we did on the lien, Scott, but, you know, if we go in and we do work on your property, we're gonna put a lien on it. We don't care where you're at or what you're doing.
If it doesn't
Right.
get paid, we
If
put
it doesn't get
put out
paid,
tax
it'll go on the tax bill.
All tax liens will have to be covered if they sell the property or whatever, right?
bill. Correct.
If they sell it or if it goes on,
Well, even the lien, if they sell, the lien will have to be paid. If it goes on the tax bill, it'll get paid or something.
either way.
Gotcha. 10-4. Thank you.
Anybody else have any question for city manager or city attorney? No? Did anybody in the audience want to comment on the code enforcement tax lien? Okay, not seeing anybody, would someone like to make a motion?
Motion to accept resolution number 2510, code enforcement lien for nuisance abatement. Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? If not, city clerk?
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Briggs,
Yes.
Commissioner Pelletier,
Yes.
Commissioner Ayers,
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor Henderson.
Yes. Okay, we'll go to item 2, resolution 25-11, personnel manual update, drug-free workplace policy.
It's resolution number 2511, a resolution of the City of Callaway Commission revising the City of Callaway Personnel Manual, section 3.08, drug-free workplace policy, repealing all resolutions or parts thereof which are in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
City manager?
We are updating the personnel manual to address issues we've seen in the past. Every document's a living document, and this will need an update.
Yeah, I think in our personnel manual, the drug-free workplace was pretty thin. I think you had like standalone policies you have them sign, so this incorporates it into the actual personnel manual. You know, the full attachment you see.
Anybody have any comment or question?
Yes, I do. I find it interesting that, all employees and, all new employees will be going through these documents. They have to go through the documents and they have to sign off to go through them.
Correct.
It took me a while to go through them, so I appreciate what they're gonna be doing. Now, under the resolution, we're saying the resolution will take effect immediately upon adoption. However, under this insemination, current employees receive a one-time notice, and it'll go into effect in 60 days. So how can it be immediate and then it'll go into effect in 60 days?
Well, I mean, the policy you're adopting is immediately into effect, and part of that would be the 60-day grace.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this needs to go into effect immediately.
Once this is given to all employees and future employees, well, at least all employees, future employees would be immediate.
Correct.
But the current employees, they have 60
To be a
days
60-day
to
grace
comply.
or notice, but to do that, you gotta adopt this resolution today, make it immediate, start the clock today, basically.
Just start the 60-day clock.
Once they-
We will then start individualizing the employees, hand it to them, let them go through it, sign off that they received it, and they agree to it.
Okay. So they have 60 days to do that, or what?
We have 60 days to get their signature where they want to.
Okay.
I mean, it's difficult to get all the employees in one place at one time and try to cover it, so we'll do it by department or move forward. It just gives us that we have 60 days to get everyone's signature. Once they sign off on it, it's in effect for them.
Okay, that's,
And we might get everybody by next week, then the 60 days is out. It's just basically giving us 60 days to get to everybody.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Anybody?
it's a good policy.
Did anybody in the audience want to comment on the update to the drug policy? Not seeing anybody, would someone like to make a motion?
Motion to approve resolution 2511, personnel manual update, drug fee, workplace policy. Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, city clerk?
Commissioner Briggs,
Yes.
Commissioner Pelletier,
Yes.
Commissioner Ayers,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
and Mayor Henderson.
Yes. Okay, we go to item number 3. Change order number 3, Roberts and Roberts, Boat Race Road legislative paving. City manager.
Okay, just that ugly word change order. Nobody pass out. This is the final change order on this project. We're spending the rest of the state money.
Right.
This is not taxpayer money. This is, we just keep narrowing down, and so this is gonna be the final amount that will spend out the legislative money that was made for that road, so. That's really, the next one is the CEI, which is, we have to have the CEI, and they ran out of money back. They had already ran out of money, they were just basically working for us for free, because they had enough to cover the first, we did another change order, we didn't accept
We
them.
didn't have to do stuff.
Yeah, I'm just explaining it all, how it all works, but both of these are just change orders, they are within budget for the state, and will be reimbursed.
Okay, does anybody have any question on the Roberts change order?
No.
Anybody in the audience? Yes, sir?
Martin Vossler, 6303 Wallace Road. I get it that it's nice that we have outside funds that cover this, but every time we say that it is an outside fund not coming from our taxpayers, it's still coming from taxpayers. So fiscal responsibility is still like, you know, I want that to still be in everybody's mind, you know, because this isn't the first time. I'm not, you know, I'm looking at you because you're in front of the podium.
You're all
but, you
fine,
know,
you're fine.
this isn't the first time it's been said, you know, and so, yeah, we get it, it's nice to get grants, it's nice to get everything, but all of that still comes from all of the money that's in Florida or in the US from a federal grant, you know, it all gets funneled to one area and then distributed back down, so I just, you know, beat it to the table that it's still taxpayer money funding all of this.
It is, it's taxpayer money across the state of Florida, and unfortunate for these things though, if we don't use the money, it doesn't go back to the taxpayer, it goes to another community.
That's right.
It'll go to another community, so I suck up every bit of that money. While I know the citizens out here are paying it, I don't want your money going somewhere else. I wanna try to take everything I can and bring it back here into the city, and, you know, they put the grants out, and I say this all the time, somebody gonna get that money, so it might as well be us.
Well, you're also spending on things that our taxpayers will have to spend on at some point, so we might as well go ahead and get it done.
But I
Yeah, this is
understand
addressing some
completely what
drainage
you're
issues
saying.
along both.
I mean, I still see that as robbing one to pay the other, you know, it's obviously getting in there, getting it before somebody else does, it's still like taking it from somebody else, and it's all taxpayer money that, you know, obviously there should be a little bit of a responsibility to, even down to me, you know, because I'm here asking, you know, voicing my concerns to the commission, my commissioner, you know, to be responsible with our tax money as it goes. I mean, I like tax money because I'm, you know, retired military, and I work at Bakersfield School, so all of my income comes from tax money. But that doesn't mean that just like, just dole it out wherever, you know, thank you.
Thank you. Did anybody else want to comment? I'm not seeing anybody, we need a motion on item number 3.
Motion to approve change order number 3, Roberts and Roberts, Boat Race Road, legislative paving. Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
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 project out. And we are still gonna be a little bit under budget.
Anybody up here have any question, comment? Anybody in the audience want to comment on the legislative paving change order for the CEI? Not seeing anybody. Would someone like to make a motion?
Motion approved change order number 1, DRMP, Boat Race Road, CEI.
Okay, we got a motion, do you have a second? Okay, we got a motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carried. Believe it or not, that brings us to the end of our agenda. We will go on to commission and staff comments. I just had a couple things I wanted to bring up. First off, the fishing rodeo was June the 14th. Tim and his staff did another great job, as they always do. We had a really good turnout. Was there like 165 kids? Isn't that kind of what the final tally was?
166.
166, okay, don't want to forget that one extra kid. But,
All their parents.
and all their parents, but everybody, people seemed to have a really good time. Tim's crew was doing the hot dogs, they did a good job with that, and it seemed like it went very smoothly. There were a lot of people, but everything was well organized, and it just kind of flowed real good. And with kids were catching some nice looking fish. So if you missed it, you missed a good time. And then something else, the new courthouse, they did a dedication for the new wing of the courthouse. Only thing I wanted to bring up to y'all about it, it's so nice, there's parking at the courthouse now. It used to be if you had jury duty or had to go to the courthouse for something, you couldn't find a place to park, but I was amazed they actually have parking. So if you get called for jury duty or something, at least you'd be able to find a place to park to go in the courthouse. And one other thing I wanted to mention, and I know we beat up Florida Power and Light up here sometimes, or in the audience, you know, different topics about them. But I wanted to thank them. They've done some things to the community. You know, a few months ago, they gave that grant to Callaway Elementary. I think it was a $50,000 grant for them to upgrade that one classroom. But here recently, a few weeks ago, they brought boxes for, you know, the seniors meet here on Tuesdays and Thursdays. They bought boxes, it's like hurricane supplies they brought for the seniors, where there was bottled water and, you know, crackers and cookies and tuna and chicken, things that would really be handy for seniors to have if the hurricane. So I just wanted to give Florida Power and Light a thank you for looking out for the community and doing those things. And Commissioner Davis, did you have anything?
I'll wait there, city manager's update on the submittal process for the out parcel at Beacon Hill Point.
Okay, Commissioner Briggs?
I'll wait for the updates on that, except, bring up painting of the roads,
Right,
you know, particularly the intersection of 22 and Bertha.
Talked to them last week,
Okay,
it's on the list.
okay.
It's a
When they
it's a
talk
county.
back, did they give you an indication of when it
Well,
will be?
I'm not gonna tell you when the last time they told me, last time they said, oh, we're gonna get it done in 2 weeks, and that was over 30 days ago. That's a county road, that's where the county meets the state. And so the state went in and they did their striping as far back as they could, and now we're on to the county. I'm back to the point where we just go out there with some spray paint. We'll just spray paint the lines ourselves. Don't laugh, I've done it.
Anything else, Commissioner?
No, I'll wait.
Okay, Commissioner Pelletier?
City manager, you're gonna talk about the towers for the utility building.
Yes.
And, I think it's time somehow or another that we, I know you've worked this 10 times for me before. Surely we can fix this issue on the ditching of Highway 22. You know, they do half of it and not the other half. I noticed that the ditch all the way up to Star Avenue looks like crap, and that's a state responsibility.
It is.
And it's not being done. They come in and, you know, the state is paying the subcontractor, and and nobody's supervising the subcontractor, they're just doing what they want to do. So like on 22 side from the bridge all the way up, they're just doing the one side, and then the other side is 5 feet tall, which is stupid. And the only reason it ever gets done is when I call you, say they're not doing it.
And then I call my guy,
Can
DOT,
we not
he
get a
gets it done.
hold of our representative, the mayor, and let him know that we're paying the subcontractor, the state, our tax dollars, and the work's not getting done,
I'll escalate this.
you know? But now, you know, if you look at the ditch all the way up to Star Avenue, you look at where Bubba's area is there, I mean, it's terrible, it looks crappy.
I'll give him a call tomorrow.
That's all I got. I got nothing.
Okay, do you have anything, Commissioner?
Nothing really, I've been doing the same as I've been doing all along, meeting with the city manager once a week, talking city issues. Tomorrow I'll be at the Bay Estuary Committee meeting. I have been diving lately, and I want you to know the water's hot. And when the water's hot, if the storm gets into the Gulf, it's gonna spin up. So if you're not doing your hurricane preparation, I'm not saying we're gonna get one, but somebody will in the Gulf. So that's all I got.
One thing I neglected to mention, the city manager reminded me, they're giving the key to the first house in the Habitat for Humanity Village this Thursday at 2:30 if y'all want to be there. City clerk, did you have anything for us this evening? Okay, city attorney, city manager.
All right, let's talk Cherry Street. Actually, we got really good things going on. So, we have a conference call this week. Everyone has all of their red lines in. They call them the red line drawings. That's where AT&T went out and did another survey of their lines. If you notice, AT&T has actually been out on site this week doing some work. And we did a cursory review of the project. We are going to modify a couple of structures to get around TECO. And so TECO has theirs, and they're supposed to be getting their plan to us now. There's nothing holding them back. All drawings are in and everything, and we're making our adjustments. They've actually already been made to it. We're just in a couple of manholes to move them. They can be moved. That's gonna alleviate, conflicts with TECO. Other than that, where we are, the drainage system has to be done. TECO's gonna have to move their stuff. We gotta convey water. So, hopefully we'll be able to give y'all a good plan, but, I know AT&T's been out there this week.
They still haven't, TECO hasn't given you, I know all the plans are out, I know y'all have been meeting, but we still don't have a clue when this is gonna start.
You're right.
I don't know why it's taking so long for the mines
This
to
is
make a
TECO.
decision.
We've jumped through every hoop that's been required now.
Yeah, I
There's
understand.
nothing else on my back.
But at some point, they need to give us a date. Is it this year, next year?
It should be
Probably
soon.
next year, I would imagine, so,
The cemetery fence, if y'all been out, it's complete.
looks great.
It's beautiful. The property owners around it love it. So, that's a great project. I've already had multiple people stop on site, or they've already called up and said thank you for honoring the families that are in there. The roundabout, all of the utilities have been moved, but AT&T has identified a fiber line that they have requested that they would like to get it moved. And so, and they've been out there and working. And so they're supposed to give me a date on when they're gonna be moving, but it's not gonna be an extended process. They just wanna get this fiber out from underneath the middle of that road. It's already existing, they just didn't want us to go back on top of it. Beacon Point, the structures have been, I guess you could say ordered, that's a good way to put it. They have to go through, the specs are now back in the CEI's hands. They'll only be there for about a day, and then that structure will be ordered, and it generally takes 30 to 45 days for it to come in, and once it comes in, you'll start seeing construction go out. In the meantime, they are gonna go back and demo the slab, so you're gonna see them come back out and demo the slab. It's actually a little bit better for us if we demo the slab, there's utilities underneath it that would have been our responsibility, so, they're gonna go through and demo that slab, so, they can go ahead and put the building back. But that'll all be done while our structure's being ordered, so it's not a delay or anything like that. So once that structure comes in, you'll start seeing the movement on that.
Before you go on, what's going on with that backside?
The backside is under architectural,
There's not gonna be enough money to do anything with, correct?
depends on who you ask and what day it is.
Well,
If you ask the
you can
owners
ask all
of
you
the
want,
building,
you got
if you ask the owners of the building, you know, but they're prepared to cover the rest of it.
that's what I'm saying, is that you're gonna have about $800,000 left from the grant money, okay?
They're expecting to roof, work on the outside facade, and redo like the ACs and stuff. They say everything else will be fine.
I understand that, but how about the full walls? Is that gonna come down?
The which one?
The eyesore? that we've
Oh,
been
on the
talking
end?
about for 3 years.
They
5
have
years.
not made a determination on what they're gonna do. I'm thinking, they've been hoping to get a big box in there. If they get a big box, which big boxes are not multiplying right now. This was told to me by last week, they said, so most likely that end structure will probably come down.
Right.
That's what I heard last week. The lift stations, the rehabilitation of 5 lift stations, all those have been ordered. They're 5 months out. Not that anybody would know that it started, but, you know, this is just a rehab on some lift stations. Sandy Creek is still an environmental. They sent out some RFIs the other day. Those got answered today. Should be submitted tomorrow, so that we get that project going. Hugh Thomas is under a notice to proceed, so they're under their time frame right now. Not sure when they're actually gonna start on that one. Kevin has the solid waste stuff, he's working on
I
that.
was gonna ask that, where we at with that?
Yeah, well, Eddie left some garbage in there, so I just take.
Garbage and
I'm
garbage.
working, because I thought I took all that out, so it was like a 20-something page.
And we keep on sitting on
It's
this.
a big
Well, he
document.
just got it to me right before last meeting, but look, it's a big document, and I'm like, wait a second, we're not going out for garbage, so we're on that, we'll have that going out, and I'll get it back to this. I'm not sitting on it.
We haven't talked about our first budget meeting, which is gonna be sometime in July. And here we are in June, end of June, and we still haven't gone out.
It's, it ended up.
Okay.
I thought it was a good document. There's only.
Want to privatize garbage, but we don't have.
Oh, it's not all garbage, I got most of it out. It's a 20-page document now. Right documents, just, I didn't say they were right.
We have something by the next meeting.
Yeah, well, the plan is just to get it back to city clerk, get it,
Put it out for
let you guys know it's going out.
We'll take it.
It's just, we're just privatizing solid waste, that's all we're trying to do. It's just, I didn't want to send it out without it's privatizing.
We're not gonna
Garbage,
regulate
so that's what we have to do.
Solid waste, right. Do we really need to see it, Commissioner? I mean,
I thought we decided we were gonna get it out, so
Email
just
it to
copy
you.
on it.
We're gonna email it to you, but it's going out for bid.
I mean, it needs to go off the bid.
Yeah, we'll let y'all see it, but I mean,
It doesn't get approved.
They
it's
do.
going out. I didn't want to send out, garbage haulers.
Right.
One of the last projects, the South Bertha sidewalk, the design of that goes from halfway down, it's basically halfway between Boat Race and Wallace, that little stretch of piece right there, that's out right now to the RFP committee. We did install the first monopole out of Sandy Creek for the FlexNet system, and, middle of the second week in July, they're doing the install on the tower here and that pole that we just installed. We're now working on getting power to the monopole. We'll have it ready for them when we're here to do the install. We're just coming off that lift station. It just takes one to do anything. And that lift station is also on a generator, so if something goes wrong, we still got that. That's pretty good update. If I missed anything, let me know.
I just think that next commission meeting, we need to put on the agenda a discussion about utility billing and the timescale. I think we need to have a good discussion on that, eliminating that 10 days in my mind. Instead of doing it the 25th, we cut it off on the 15th and be done with it.
Okay.
Because you're never gonna get down to shortening
I'll
the
do
billing
something,
cycle unless
we
we
get
do
it on the
the
agenda, so
term.
we're good.
have anything that Eddie didn't cover? No? Okay, we'll go ahead and do the announcements then. Does it look like we'll have a planning board meeting on, okay, the
Yes.
planning board meeting on the 1st? Then our 4th of July celebration out here on July 4th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then our next commission meeting will be July 8th here at 6 p.m. That's anything that shows up in announcements. Anybody know of anything else? I can't think of anything else. Okay, so we will go to public participation. Ms. Pelletier.
Anna Pelletier, 7724 Shadow Bay Drive. I was wondering about the drainage at the cemetery. You had mentioned that at one meeting, that you were gonna put a drainage in. So I'd like to maybe get an update on that. And then, city manager did explain this to me, but it was a very informal conversation. I was not prepared to take down facts, and I don't like to repeat things that are not a fact. And so I was wondering if you can explain again, why we would not be able to align boat race, and Bertha and go in a roundabout instead.
Go with the four-way stop
Yes,
instead of the roundabout.
well, yes, once you explained to me that I was, you know, very informally listening to.
That's fine. Cemetery drainage, we completed that project. We did this in-house. We budgeted like way too much money for it. And the guys went out, they shot it. They're still out there working on it right now. The retention pond has been put in.
City manager, excuse me before you go, where's the retention pond? I couldn't see it up there.
It's outside of the cemetery.
On the north side.
On the north side.
All right, that's why I
All the way
didn't
to the
see it.
south
Okay,
end,
all right,
over near Gay.
okay.
Where the original retention pond used to be, so a lot of people don't know about that, there actually was a huge retention pond there. It got filled in. It was so hidden and so behind everything that it became a trash dump.
Okay.
And so we've cleared all that area out back there and got the retention pond in. We had a farm drainage that was going to it. We're actually going to pipe in this drainage, and it's gonna actually go down the fence line and turn into it. And so that's gonna, our plan is to actually, I think, we're gonna start at the end of this week. We have a lot of staff right now that's in some, transportation training, getting some certifications for moving cars and stuff, learn how to put cones out and stuff like that. But we'll either get on that either at the end of this week or the first of next week, and then that project is completely done. We have had several rains. It rained phenomenally. We're not holding water now. Our guys did a fantastic job, and as I tell them all the time, you're just adding to your resume things I'm gonna have you do. So, but they did a real good job, so that project is over. So we looked at the original alignments on that intersection, and if you notice, it's like two lines that have a stretch between them. There's so much fiber underneath the ground that basically boat race on the east side can't be moved. It cannot, it's gotta stay stationary. Because of what's on the other side with the tower, that line couldn't be moved. So when you looked at it, you would actually, boat race would have to go down and take a curve, almost like an S curve to try to get into it. That was not gonna work either. And so you would never be able to line up Bertha because it's gonna be offset. Can't line it up, there's no way. So there's just no way to move the roads. The roundabout is gonna move transportation so much easier. There'll be a slight offset when you're coming down boat race. It will have to curve a little bit to the right. And that's just because you've got Bertha coming in. And, you don't wanna move Bertha, so Bertha, there'll be a curve back into it, but it's gonna be smooth, seamless, and it's gonna be a good project. Everybody's gonna like it once it's done. I know everybody's scared about roundabouts, it's okay, just hit the car that's coming in. Just yield.
Anybody else want to speak?
Good evening, everyone. Dean Van, Langbrook Drive. everybody. Kids had a ball. For the first time, I can say I did too.
But high.
I didn't finish, but I had some assistance going on. Just a comment, Griggs, on the water debt. I've been around since about 76. I'm not that old. But we've always had an issue. But I think we had a promissory note. And when they moved on to the next place, they still had to reimburse us. That might be in effect, Cook, I'm not sure. Do you get a written notice when the person leaves and have a balance? That I'm cutting off your water? I believe for the state of Florida, if there's a medical issue, you can't cut off utilities under certain circumstances.
That's correct.
So we might want to be a little careful with cutting that off. I'd like to also comment on Highway 98. The street appearance is great. We just gotta keep people from throwing trash out, but the shrubs are gorgeous. However, entering on 98 in some spots, it's difficult to see because of their shrubs blocking the entry onto the main highway. So we can take a little closer look. Secondly, website. I think we have 40 connections on the website. I hope we're not paying for all of those. I thought maybe we could look at the websites a little better because there's so many, they all load extremely slow. Trying to find something is like doing a research project. But that might be me and my age, not sure. Secondly, and last of all, I think Callaway is doing an excellent job in growth. I had no idea Callaway is as big as it is. I did a little tour and I was like, good gracious. Back in the 70s and the 80s, what happened? Did I miss something? All of a sudden it was a boom, and I think that occurred pretty much after the hurricane. But again, are we prepared to get out of here if we have another emergency? Hurricane or something? I think we might want to take a look at that too, exiting during hurricane ventures. Thank you.
Thank you.
She's bringing up a point too, we have finished the median project on the south end. We're in the, what we call the walkthrough stages. Tim and his crew's done a walkthrough, and so we, until they correct the issues that we found, then it'll finally go through to acceptance to us. Oh my, so,
At the last meeting, somebody
I don't know.
about all the water running.
I'll go tonight and check it out.
We'll be making some major changes on it Friday. They're running way too much, but we kind of been letting them handle, but we'll reset all of it.
We really don't want to touch anything until we accept it. And so they need to meet all of our requirements before, and then our guys will go in.
So that's why I wanted to make it adjust.
Not yet.
Okay. Good. I know you wanted to speak.
Go ahead.
Now, don't find about.
Oh.
Come on, somebody come up.
My name's Tim Brewer. I live over in Cherry Street. And what I'm wanting to bring up is an observation I saw on your little thing about what's coming up in the next few weeks. And you have the 4th of July celebration. When has anybody ever wished somebody a Merry December 25th? Or a Happy February the 14th? Why do we not call it Independence Day? We're a patriotic community, and we gotta stop labeling our independence. More people think of it as a national holiday to go out and barbecue and picnic, because we don't mention what it really means. And it would be just easy, particularly next year being our 250th anniversary, to stop using the term July 4th and start using the term Independence Day.
Okay, we can do that.
That's just an observation on my
Good
part.
idea.
So noted, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Shaner?
lady circle. On this water deposit thing, I don't know, but, you know, what about going to the credit score? Everybody else does, go to your bank for a car loan or insurance or anything else in life, you know, the first thing you wanna do is look up your credit score. I mean, you know, if your credit score is bad, you pay more, you don't get a good rate, so, you know, base a deposit on your credit score. If you pay your bills, you know, $250 is fine or whatever, but, if you don't pay your bills, why, I have no mercy on people that don't pay their bills. So if you thought, you know, another thing, when you're, these properties, you know, they wanna build these high-density places, and, anyway, I've been driving around and looking, and, you know, where are these kids gonna play on this one at Bertha and Cherry, when they get all four of them units in? I mean, I pass there every day, and that, you know, I wonder about that. I mean, I hear all this talk about, you know, playgrounds and, you know, different things, and there's no room there for any playgrounds, and I'm wondering, you know, that place is really gonna be crowded when they get all four of them units in there. But, you know, it's just, I seem to be a concern about the kids and basketball and, you know, places to play, and it just, you know, need more thought on some of this stuff before it's okay, in my way of thinking, you know, if you're concerned about the kids, and I am concerned about them. But anyway, why, that one, and then there's one from Burger King down Cherry Street a little bit further there, they got 5 units, or it looks like, and that's gonna be something else when they get it going. I don't see much of a place there for the kids to play, unless they're gonna get out on Cherry Street and play. But anyway, why, you need to pay more attention to that kind of stuff, you know, when these high density places are going up. Or that's just my way of thinking anyway. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did you want to read?
Yeah. Yes. I just want to say,
I'm sorry, did you have something to say?
Well, concerning that, we have done something about it because it was, for those type of units, it was 18 acres had to be involved before we required, any kind of kid stuff. We changed that to 3 acres. If they're under 3 acres, we just have no control on it. However, the one you're talking about, down the road, we got a fantastic park, both ways, whether it be, down at Veterans Park or down at, Gore Park. And then what we're gonna be doing down at the, with the park at the bridge down there. So we just, you know, the city just cannot plan a park for, you know, every unit that goes in, but I guarantee you, three balance with 3 acres, we've done all we can do on that.
Maybe some changes need to be made.
We'd have to go to smaller acreage.
Right.
That's what I'm saying, changes need to be made.
I think we could have done something with that Cherry Street, but he came in and asked for an extension at the last minute, knowing that this was gonna happen, that we would require a playground, and we approved his extension, so that didn't give us the opportunity to force him to do a playground there, which, you know, I voted against the extension, because I knew what he was trying to do, and he was trying to get under the bar, so in reality, he should have had a playground there, but it was under the old system, and the new system requires it, but his time was gonna lapse, so we gave him a 2-month extension, which disallowed it.
It was less than 3 acres, so we still, less than 3 acres.
Is it?
Yeah, the only thing we could have done when he asked for an extension was been, kinda hold it a little bit hostage. But it would have been against the land development regulations.
But anyways,
He's gonna be pressed for car parking there, much less a playground or anything.
Okay, thank you. for patiently waiting for us. You go ahead.
Teresa Langston, 6031 Lane Street. As you know, I do broadcast the meeting live in our citizen group, and a citizen had mentioned about maybe not doing away with the complete 10-day grace period. I'm kind of curious. I pay my bills online, but if somebody has a payment postmarked by the 15th, is it still late if it's received after the 15th? Or it has to be received into the office by the 15th?
Yeah, we have, unfortunately, this is horrible to say, but the post office is, you just never know. You never know when you're gonna get it.
So, yeah, it has to be received by the 15th.
Okay, because that's what they were saying, that the mail could be running late because we all know how
That's for auto pay. Auto pay is wonderful.
how the post office is. And then they also said that, you know, they may be on vacation or maybe sick or something, and maybe need a couple of days grace period. But I mean, it's only 10 days grace period. I mean, things have gotten better since y'all stopped, the balances rolling from month to month. You know, everybody has to be paid or it's gonna get shut off. And even if it gets shut off, they still have to pay the $50, that month, you know, before, you know, you don't let that amount, I guess, roll to the next month as well. So I just wanna mention that about what a citizen had said,
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
I often, sorry, Martin Bosser, 6303 Wall Street. I often don't have to look at my phone for notes, but I'm gonna look at it right now. I'm doing a comparison of annual rainfall for Callaway versus Vernon. So Vernon gets 61 inches, Callaway gets 60. I bring this up because I have property in Vernon. I go out there in the summer and I cut my grass. And my property in Vernon doesn't have nothing, it's just a piece of acreage, undeveloped. I go out there and I cut my grass frequently. My grass out there is beautiful. My grass out there has the ability to feed the native life that's out there. I got 6-inch grass with no problem out there. I don't water it. So why are we spending so much money watering the new road, the new beautification project that they put in on Central Parkway? Not to mention, you know, obviously like we've had a discussion, it's like a water slide out there, you know? So when you take that, I don't know the name of that auto sales place at Biz 98 and Central Parkway. So obviously I live right down there. So like every day I leave and I drive to work or I go somewhere, I can see new damage to their fence where somebody has taken that turn and just goes way too fast. So now add into that, we have excess water in the road. So the other day, somebody took that turn and went through their fence again. So there's not a whole lot of need that I see talking about fiscal responsibility to water ground if we were to get native stuff that grows here naturally, that we don't have to spend money watering and flooding the thing and have people have to go out there and look at it and change the cycle for the sprinklers to be on. I mean, I'm kind of happy because I do get a free car wash every time I go through there. The other thing I wanted to talk about is sidewalks. I get sidewalks are a thing that we have, there's all kinds of, with the American Disabilities Act and the state, and obviously things go in when we build a street. You know, repaving street doesn't necessarily drive a sidewalk, but building a new street, I'm pretty sure it does make it where you have to build a sidewalk. So my thing is, you know, I live on Wallace and we'll walk all the way to Court Park. I know they're building a little bit of a sidewalk there, but where is that, how is that gonna squeeze in there? Who's gonna lose their area, you know, and then obviously building the roundabout, there's gonna have to be room for people to walk there too, which I'm totally against the roundabout, but, I guess it's hard to get set, and we're going forward with it, even though nobody can use the other ones we already have in the city, so, thank you.
I'll try to answer everything I can. Sidewalks are drawn in on the plans at the roundabout. We're in the stages of the design for that section down through there. It's very tight.
Oh, yeah.
Most likely what's gonna happen is the ditch is gonna get piped in. Because of that, we're gonna end up with curb probably down through there with inlets that'll have to go into that ditch, but we won't take property. But it will fit. Probably be a wider sidewalk if it has to, depending on how far away from the road it is. The closer to the road, the larger the sidewalk. So that's all, and it's gonna be in the design phase through that grant. Tim's gonna adjust sprinklers out there as soon as we take over that project. What else did I miss?
Mayor, I've got a question dealing with sprinklers. Are we using our well system at Gore Park to save money?
Every bit of it, yes, sir.
It's connected, or
It's
our
connected.
irrigation now?
Mhm.
Okay, so a lot of citizens are aware, Gore Park, the city put in a well, so instead of us paying for county water, the well is watering Gore Park. So it's-
Everything out here
it's saving
is on
us.
a well too.
Yeah,
Everything here, the fishing pond,
right,
that's your water source. So on a well, right, Ken?
it's saving us money.
Okay.
Did anybody else want to speak? Not seeing anybody, that brings us to the end of our meeting. Motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn, everybody in favor?
Yes.
Thank y'all, have a good evening.